Okay, three people in the chat. Welcome back. We have no idea what happened. I think YouTube bounced us out and killed my whole stream. Well, we got 48 people back, so that's good. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't had anything like that happen in a very long time. Look, obviously, I opened up with a whole monologue. You missed it. So you know what? We're not even going to get into it. Sad news for today, folks. Again, let me pull up the presser because I have it in front of me. If you're a fan of anime, then your heart is going to be very heavy today, because it was announced by, let me see, Bird Studio, who of course is the Capsule Corporation in Tokyo, that legendary manga creator Akira Toriyama has passed away at the age of 68. Unfortunately, all we have is that he passed away due to an acute subdural hematoma, which, when I looked it up, was a brain injury. We just don't know exactly what that brain injury was. Unfortunately, he has passed on, and it's if you are an anime fan, you obviously are going to be walking around very sad. And I think, again, when you hear from the company where they said he was in the process of like multiple things he was developing and plenty more that he wanted to, the fact he's not going to get a chance to finish these works of art are sad. But listen, folks, again, appreciate you coming back in. Apologies for, I have no idea what the H happened. My software is good. My internet is working fine. I have no idea why YouTube killed the stream, but they did. So we're back. Listen, we're going to have an amazing 2 hours. We're going to probably go a few minutes more past 12 because obviously we had to restart the freaking stream. Let's get into the introductions. Silent Cypher, welcome back, sir. It is always great to have you here. We got some spicy topics. Apparently, Square Enix must be like nails on a chalkboard with their financials, because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth not doing very well in Japan. It's not selling very well in Europe. We have no numbers whatsoever from either Sony or a Square Enix for America. That kind of tells me that maybe it's not selling well at all. We have some obviously evidence-based conversation that we're going to talk about because I have a few articles pulled regarding it. But hey, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Yeah, it's been an interesting week. I didn't see the stuff about Final Fantasy sales until this morning. I was like, man, this is one more nail in the coffin for that whole exclusivity side of things.
Yes.
But yeah, it's pretty wild. Super stoked to be back with you guys, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it is going to be spicy, as you were saying.
Yeah, we're probably gonna stick to the two topics that you see in front of you. Obviously, Titanfall 3 is potentially in active development. That excites me. I don't know about you folks. It's one of my favorite new IPs of the last couple of generations. That, The Division. I enjoyed Destiny 1 and 2. I haven't been back since. But those, specifically Titanfall, was I think an amazing IP. I'm always saddened to see the success of Apex Legends. And I say that because the more that succeeds, the less chance we're going to get a Titanfall 3. But see, that changed last week when Disney decided to raise their stake in how you use their IP by 33%. From 25 to 33, we heard that EA has now decided they're going to start working on their owned IP. Hello, here we go. Titanfall 3 potentially around the corner, but it's great to have you back here. Fuzzy Belvedere, you're a little bit under the weather, but we're glad to have you back. Unfortunately, like most people, you go on vacation, you have a great time, and some bugs follow you home and you get sick. How you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good. Just my nose is completely raw from blowing it these past few days. Just, it's the normal winter cold, or I guess the early spring cold, or whatever you want to call it. But glad to be here with you guys. so much weird gaming news on Twitter, and some positive things with showcases, and some
Yes.
sad things with recent passings. But man, so much to get into. Glad to be here with you guys. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, brother. And again, we super appreciate you taking the time to be here, because obviously you're a little bit under the weather, and someone who might be under the weather. Hopefully, his power, his voice power will keep all the buggies away. And Crispy Bomb, everybody's sick in the house except for you.
Yeah, I definitely. I know the feeling, Fuzzy. Definitely hoping that. Because right now it's pretty warm out. So me, some of the itchiness in my nose and stuff, I'm hoping it's just a little bit of allergies coming out. Because I do get some allergies for a couple of weeks that are pretty brutal. So we'll see what happens. Trying to keep the bugs at bay. Maybe that's like a Helldivers reference. I don't know. Great to be here. Definitely interesting topics, and also love to see the partner preview. That was definitely some things I was interested in, so we're gonna get into it.
Yeah, well, the partner preview, kind of, like I said, for me, I proudly gave it an 8.5 out of 10. I there was some stuff that I didn't know I wanted in my life, and there's some stuff that's definitely not for me, and that's okay, that's perfectly fine. But folks, let's get right into the spicy tamales, if you will, of the morning breakfast. So look, Square Enix right now is a company that's in a bit of turmoil. They obviously had a lot of fiscal problems. They've had fiscal problems for the last couple of years. Almost every game that we've seen released, Silent Cypher, has been an announcement that it has underperformed, did not meet our expectations, even when it sells into the millions. The one thing about Square Enix that I think is widely known, and I think it's safe to say this, is that they spend a lot of money when it comes to developing their games. And it doesn't matter what game it is. And one of the things that I thought was very disappointing is how they treated their American studios, meaning Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal. They were sold for peanuts. They sold a bunch of IPs for again to Embracer for nothing, and we were led to believe by the company that it was those studios' fault that things were going awry, if you will. So obviously, as Xbox fans, myself included, have been waiting for the day that we can play something like Final Fantasy 16 or Final Fantasy, more specifically, Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Rebirth on our preferred console. That, in fact, is not going to happen. There was a lot of kerfuffle the other day about the trilogy being a permanent exclusive. That was retracted by the Washington Post, which again, the only thing that's exclusive as it stands right now is Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. So if you're an Xbox fan, you do what I do. You go out and you buy the games and you play them on PlayStation. I don't play on PC and again, Rebirth is not available on PC yet. It will be soon, of course, but right now it's not. It's a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Is that a problem? Well, yes, I actually think it is. And here's why. Not because it's a PlayStation exclusive, not because I want to see Square Enix or Final Fantasy fall or fail. I bought the games. I'm in the bag, folks. I spent the money. It's not a problem. But what's interesting is when you start to see places like Push Square, which they are a PlayStation-based website. That's just who they are. That's what they do. Well, thanks to an article that was posted yesterday, we have learned that apparently Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is not selling well at all. And I would imagine right now that there are conversations happening within Square Enix to somehow get themselves out of this whatever contract they signed with the devil, meaning Sony, because this game cost a lot of money to make, and they are not making that money back, or ROI, return on investment. This is what I got for you. According to, again, Push Square, the article was written by Robert Ramsey. It was posted yesterday at 9:15 And the lead title says this, folks. Japan sales charts. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth tops, but doesn't even come close to Final Fantasy VII Remake. So here is, I'm going to read you verbatim the first couple of paragraphs so we can kind of frame this for you folks, right? Frame it for everyone that's going to talk about it in the chat and, of course, on the panel. And the opening part of the article says this. We've said it once and we'll say it again. Direct sequels are harder to sell than most people realize. The latest Japanese sales numbers are in. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the big talking point. Unsurprisingly, the RPG had immediately topped the charts with 263,000 copies sold. I'm going to be honest with you, folks. That's not a lot of copies in your home territory. It's Final Fantasy. It's not niche. I don't want to hear that. If you grew up like I did playing games for as many years as I did, Final Fantasy was the pinnacle RPG. Have they fallen off? Sure, but that does not mean that they're not a AAA IP. And I'm sorry, 263,000 copies sold in the first week of release is not good. And here's why. Usually, like films, Silent Cypher, we see a drop-off. Usually it's 30%, 40%. We've seen some video game sales drop at 90%, where just, you get that one big boost, and after that, that's it. This is on one platform. And we already learned, thanks to Christopher Dring, that it's not doing well in Europe. We have no idea what it's doing here in America, because quite frankly, no one from Square and certainly no one from Sony has said anything about the numbers here. That's how you know they're in a pickle. But let me continue. It says, but that total, which may seem fairly impressive at first, puts the game well behind the opening figures of its predecessor, Final Fantasy VII Remake. So just for context, folks, in 2020 on the PlayStation 4 in Japan, when Final Fantasy VII Remake released, it sold in its first week in Japan alone 703,000 copies. This is the direct sequel, 4 years later, and it only has moved 263,000 copies. That is less than half. That's not good. Let's talk about it, Silent Cypher. This is one of those situations where, again, we don't know what the contracts are. We don't know how deep they go. There might be a situation where the entire trilogy has to release on PlayStation before it's even considered to be put on Xbox. Final Fantasy 16. Can anyone correct me? Has that released onto PC as of yet? No, right? I don't think so. I think that's far from. So. Yeah, so that's another game. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. When is that coming to PC? I don't know. Good luck. So right now, the company, well, they're kind of stuck. They're stuck with PlayStation. And PlayStation, listen, they're selling consoles like they're giving them out for free, and that's awesome. But people are buying those consoles for other things, and they're apparently not buying Final Fantasy. This is bad news for Square Enix. Let's get your hot takes on this.
Yeah, you mentioned the contract and like what we don't know, obviously, about what goes on behind the scenes for that. And it would make you curious, like what type of requirements do they have in the background? Obviously, we'll probably never know all the details, but it makes you wonder, like especially after this last release, when they saw even those sales not going great. You would have thought like maybe, especially with the new guy in charge over at Square, you would have thought like maybe he would have looked at it and been like, okay, well, what's the early termination cost if we choose to back out of this, because we're seeing a trend that this is not working out anymore. So it does kind of make you wonder, like, what if there was a termination cost? Like, I would imagine by now it probably would have been good to pull the ejection button, like press it and tap out. But I don't know. Like it feels like they must have thrown a very substantial bag at Square. But at the same time, every time that these games come out, every time that we hear their reporting, they're still talking about the fact that they're not making money on this. They're not turning a profit. They're in a bad situation. Like the bag must not have been that big, I guess, if it's not supporting the costs. And if that's the case, like, why haven't they acted on this, taken a penalty fee for it for early, like early cancellation, and just moved on with life? Because at this point, I mean, we've all seen it across the board in the industry. Like, everyone is going to have multi-plats in some form or fashion. It's a way of getting more of that profit back. They're diversifying their portfolio by putting their properties out and available wherever you want to play them. And that, based on the costs that we've seen, makes a lot of sense. Sony and Square, going back to the financial side and the cost of these developments, right? Like, it feels like everything that they release is way more than it should be. Like, you look at this, and I don't see how you can tell me that this was a like hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever spent or anything. Like, when you see something like this, it's just like, I don't buy that you put that much money into it. So where is the money going? And if it's going somewhere, like, you need to address that. Maybe some of the guys up top need to take some pay cuts or not get bonuses.
Yep.
So that way they can afford this, and maybe they look at it and restructure what their cost is in development. Because whatever it is right now, it's not sustainable. It's showing to us time and time again how unsustainable this model is for them.
It's interesting because we have a couple of PlayStation fans here, and of course I want to say this with my heart to the screen. Please, you're welcome here anytime. If you feel that you want to have a conversation, that's okay. Your opinions matter. Even if you're a PlayStation guy, gal, everyone's welcome here. FYI. I see something about some people saying about, oh, these are just Xbox crying for a game. First of all, dude, here's the thing. Or people. I have Final Fantasy VII Remake, the Collector's Edition. I dropped a bag. Okay. I bought the digital deluxe edition for $100. Now, I haven't played it because I have to finish 7. And it's not because 7 was terrible. 7's amazing and it's gorgeous. I just don't have enough time in my life. That's the problem. RPGs like that need me to focus, and all I want to do is play Halo. Sorry, that's my life. There is an inherent problem here. This isn't an us versus them thing. This is like, hey, PlayStation folks that go to the top of the tower and yell and scream about your exclusives, you're not buying their shit. That's the problem. You are not buying the games. You will play Twitter. You will play Instagram. You will play any of the other your favorite flavor of socials and be like, hey, PlayStation #1, they got the best exclusives. You know something? PlayStation does have absolutely astounding first-party exclusives. There's no denying that. And that's why they're in first place. But when you look at a situation like this, let's not fake the funk here, folks. Square Enix is dying on the vine, Silent Cypher. Okay? Yep. Think about this for a second. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, a PlayStation 5 exclusive in Japan, moves 263,000 units the first week. You do realize that there is a significant drop-off in any industry, but specifically gaming. I guarantee you that the sales numbers will not be even half of 263,000 in Japan next week. It might be a quarter if you are lucky. And we have learned, thanks to several websites, that it's not doing and moving as well in Europe. So the question is, are they going to be saved by the United States, where we know Sony has moved their headquarters, right? Obviously, they're making money, but we don't have the numbers. And call me crazy, Silent Cypher, but isn't Sony the same company the minute they have a big number to put up our noses? They're out there on the socials giving us those numbers. Hey, we sold 3 million copies in 24 hours because we're great. They haven't said anything, and people are not calling that out. Well, we're going to call that out here. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, no, I just, in regards to the conversation you're having and the folks that are in the chat, like, let's look back to Final Fantasy 16 when that hit too, right? Like, initially, the sales were kind of soft, and it looks like they got pretty close to what they ended up spending on that specific game at the time when they released it. But again, you mentioned the drop off. That's not sustainable. Like, if you're trying to support a project moving forward, you're going to have to look at either reducing the scope of the next release because the game you just released didn't just take off. Like, you made your money back, but that's not saying you made your money back and now you're good for the next decade. Like, the money is not coming in the way that they expected, even on the most recent. And it's fine. I get it. Like, if you jump in here, you're like, oh, it's Xbox guys being angry about it. Like, no. Let's get one thing clear is, like, I will play games wherever I want to play the games and wherever they are. I'm personally not a Final Fantasy guy, but if I wanted it, I would either go get a PlayStation or I'd go play it on the PC. It's what it is. Like, it's not me being one way or another. It's not any of us being one way or another. Like, Christ, I just bought the Command and Conquer collection on my PC before we started the show.
It was $10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, $10.
So-
if you're a
so-
Command and Conquer fan, please, before you get out of here, tell people about that because I'm not a fan of that. I know Pong So nearly creamed in his pants. Sorry, Pong. It's true. You know I'm not.
It's even better too. I think it was like $9.53 after tax. And it has the entire collection. It's got all of, like, the add-ons and everything. And it's killer. Like, if any of you enjoy those old RTSs or you never got a chance to play those or it's just been a while, like, go grab them. It's for that price, it's an impulse buy. But that to say, like, just because we have a preferred ecosystem doesn't mean we aren't going to play the games where the games go. Does it suck when things get restricted? Yes, and I don't think it's a great thing for the industry in general if you don't have at least a couple points of contact, right? Like, if you buy on Xbox, you can usually have it on PC as well. If it's a first-party game, you're getting it on both sides. So you immediately increase the amount of people that can purchase your game. That's a good thing. Restricting something like Final Fantasy that we've seen time and time again has had financial issues. Square Enix either doesn't know how to spend their money responsibly, or they're out of touch with how the market is now. Whatever's going on with them, it needs to be reassessed. They need to look at that and realize, like, okay, if we continue down this path, we might not be here in a decade. Like, we might have screwed ourselves over if we continue down this path. So it's not a fanboy thing. It's just watching and seeing, like, if this company doesn't do something smart to keep the lights on and maybe adjust their spending, gamers in general might not see this content down the road. Like, that's just what it is.
It's unfortunate but true. And again, this isn't a flame war. This isn't a fanboy thing. It's not us versus them. It's facts. This is news. We're gonna report it. I'm a Final Fantasy fan. I had to buy it on a console that is my third. In order of use, it's Xbox first, Switch second, and very, very low is I only literally turn on my PlayStation for its exclusives. That it's an exclusive box. That's what it's for, and it's fine. But I would rather play Final Fantasy, and I would have double dipped. Like, I already bought Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation. If I have to buy it again on Xbox, I'll buy it again. It's not a problem. I love the series. It's my favorite series of all Final Fantasies. But let's bring in Fuzzy Belvedere. Fuzzy, this is an interesting conversation. Obviously, when you start to see the reports come in from, like, the Tweet Towns and from the Push Squares, these are dedicated Sony websites. That's just what they do. And when they're calling it out, I think it's a conversation to be had. What are your thoughts on the fact that it's not selling well in Japan? It's tracking way lower in Europe, and we have no idea what it's doing in the States, considering that, again, Sony, which to their credit and their marketing prowess, they're boasters. They get out there and they let you know how good their game is, how good it is selling. As a matter of fact, when Final Fantasy 16 sold 3 million, didn't they get out there and be like, hey, 3 million, yes, on PlayStation? Where are the numbers? That's because there's something afoot here. What are your thoughts, man?
I think maybe at the month, if they reach one of their goals, like 3 million or so like that, maybe they'll come out. But I think there's a couple of things here at play. Like, one of the biggest things is the box sales is becoming less and less relevant in certain areas. So for like the UK, even though they're probably still one of the longer holdouts as far as still going with physical copies, I think they're only trending at about 70% digital, 30% physical, when almost the entire rest of the world is like 90% digital kind of thing. But when you look at Japan, there's a couple of things at play, and I wish I knew who made mention of this prior so I can give them credit. But Japan, ever since Sony kind of, I wouldn't say they abandoned them, but they definitely have shifted their focus more so to the Western side of the business. So with Japan, a lot of the gamers there are on mobile or handheld devices, or they're on PC. There was a great shift in recent years, like I think over the past 4 years, of getting away from console outside of like the Switch or other handhelds into PC, which in turn also equals some of the, Steam Decks and ROG Allies and things like that. But they're becoming more of a PC centric than console centric, nation. So when they put this whole exclusivity on the PS5, and by the way, the PS5 isn't doing as well in Japan as it would like when you compare it to the PS4. It's because of that transition from a lot of people going from console to PC. So there isn't as much of an audience that are on PS5 to buy this game. And they're simply just going to wait until it's on PC, which who knows, that might be a couple of months from now or whatever. But the fact that it's not on the Switch is another big issue, for at least for Japan, because that is the number one console. That is the number one selling software gaming device in that region, other than like if you consider apps on phones and things. So the PlayStation kind of, or Square kind of put itself in a pigeonhole to some extent when it comes to their home territory, where they're not looking to do PC. And they did the same thing with Final Fantasy 16. They told all those people, especially in Japan, because there was a kick up about it, that, oh, just go buy a PS5. When you have a PC, why would you step down to a PS5? I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I have a PS5. I have a Series X console. But PC is still the premier or the best place to game if you can, manage or afford that. So if they already stepped up to a PC, telling them to go buy a $500 device that's like 2 steps down from their PC that they just built, that ain't happening. So it's going to lead to a slower sale on this remake or on Rebirth in comparison to Remake. When Remake was made more than 4 years ago, there wasn't as big of a transition to PC. Now, as far as in the States, Sony is always the one to beat their chest when they reach these certain goals in a short period of time. But this particular game isn't doing it. And I don't think, even though I would say 7 is probably, there's more excitement about Remake than there was about Final Fantasy 16 to some extent. I don't think Final Fantasy, because of how it's curated it only to this one audience in the PlayStation 5 bubble, that it's reaching all the people that would actually be interested in it. A lot of people that are interested in these RPG episodic long tail games where it's like 100 hours of going through things. That's it seems now more so than anything, that's more becoming the PC crowd. It started with things like, The Witcher. It started with things like even the old Dragon's Dogma. So looking at Dragon's Dogma 2 now, a lot of people are picking that up on PC as well. One for the fact that it's only 30 frames on console at the moment, but there is a whole wide variety of things where these bigger, longer, more involved games are or catering more to or being adopted more by the PC crowd. And for Square to say, no, we're not putting it on PC, I think that was the biggest mistake. And I think it's a mistake not putting it on Xbox as well. But a sale is a sale. I would say, Square, if they've been going through the financial trouble that we've seen over these past few years where they've sold off divisions and they've had, weird, fever dreams of doing NFT games and whatnot, you could tell they need to change some of their direction. But until they do, this is what we're stuck with as far as it being on PS5 and it possibly not reaching every gamer that would be willing to play it because they don't necessarily have that device. So it is what it is. It is going to continue to track slower until it hits PC. And then I expect, as long as it's within 6 months or even less, I would expect it to do rather well, probably double the sales at that point. But if it winds up being a year later for it to hit PC, with things like Dragon's Dogma coming out and things like, Black Myth Wukong, the PC crowd is going to move on at that point. And they're going to look for bigger and better or more recent games that are on, everybody's, wish list type of thing. So this is Square just basically shooting itself in the foot. Sure, it caters to the PS5 crowd that are going to buy it, but that crowd seems like it's less and less for having 54 million units. I think it's the estimates that it's at now. You would think that they would have at least a 10%, somewhere around, hovering around a 10% ratio for attachment rate. And it's been showing, other than like maybe Spider-Man, which actually even Spider-Man kind of struggled Spider-Man 2 struggled in comparison to Spider-Man 1. Spider-Man 1 blew the doors off of everything.
Yeah, that's so like
Spider-Man
gangbusters
2,
because obviously that was you know what the difference there is, and you heard it obviously in the article that direct sequels don't do as well.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2018 is masterclass level. Now, again, maybe not everyone's going to agree with me. I hear you. That's fine if you don't believe me. That's a game I platinum. That's how much I love that game. Loved 2018, but that's because we hadn't had a really polished Spider-Man for many years. The last one that became one of the one where the two by so Microsoft owns companies now.
Activision. Back
yes.
with it. So yeah,
years.
It's been a while. So we were kind of starved of those games for a while. So that explains why those probably took off as well. But looking at it now, even Spider-Man is the Spider-Man 2 is struggling, and that's part of the reason why they're doing bundles, despite having to pay the extra 35% or whatever portion Disney now eats up when it comes to
33,
bundles.
33% now, which is bonkers.
Yeah, so they're doing that bundle with the PS5 Slim, one to help sell more units, and two to help sell more software. Put them both together, and pay Disney that check at the end of it, type of thing. But unfortunately, Square is kind of stuck. They should have come up with a better licensing arrangement on the lines of Disney when it comes to their games being on PlayStation exclusively. But we'll see. Hopefully, the whole thing about that whole trilogy being exclusive and then them having to backtrack on it, I'm wondering if it's one of those things where it waits until the trilogy is released on PlayStation for it to come to Xbox. I mean, that would kind of be nice. Then we would get the complete edition. But at this point in time, I think Square is just they're stuck with the bad decisions they've made a few years ago. That at the beginning seemed like a brilliant idea, but as time carries on, it's probably kicking them in the pants every day. They think about, well, we could have made at least an extra million here or there or something like that. So it is what it is.
Very disappointing. First of all, before we bring Crispy in, because I'm going to get his hot take, I want to welcome nearly 700 people here. I thought we were going to be having like 15 people in the chat because somehow or another the original stream got eaten up by YouTube. And well, we're back. And I got to get to the super chat. So before I bring Fuzzy in, I want to get to those because there's a lot of them. But Dreadpool, you made it, brother. Welcome. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling great. DMV sucks, but they're getting better at it.
It does. No matter what state you're in, DMV sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than it used to be. I mean, it used to be like an all day ordeal. You'd have to, bring food to have a picnic while you're sitting there waiting. But yeah, in and out, and I'm here. So excited. Grab some D&D
Okay, there
because
you go. Hey,
you know
listen,
it's one of those things.
whatever gets the gas tank filled, you'll take it. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. But all right. So listen, Crispy, before I bring you in on the conversation, because I'm expecting an infamous Crispy Bomb rant on this. We got to talk about this, but let me catch up on the super chats we have. Wow, we have 11 of them. Yikes! First of all, the first one of the day comes from our good brothers, and these are a trio of amazing humans. They have an outstanding podcast that I am thrilled to let you know that you should be subscribed to, and that's the Long House Gaming Podcast. Of course, that's the Black Viking, Black Skellington, and Supernova do it up real good each and every week. I compare them to the Iron Lords, and that is, yes, high praise, but you know something? They have earned it. They put on an amazing show each and every week. They drop a very generous $5 super chat and says, just wanted to say, I hope that the chat and panel have a great weekend. Hashtag gang gang. Indeed, brother. Thank you so much for that. Cheap Skink drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, Akira Toriyama also did character designs for video games such as Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, Blue Dragon, and Sandland. I knew about the Chrono Trigger. I did not know about the Blue Dragon, and I did not know about. I should have guessed to get Dragon Quest. That's one of the oldest RPGs. That makes sense. Yeah, it's a sad day in anime for sure. So thank you so much for the knowledge, and of course, thank you for the generosity. Elemental PO, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $10 super chat and says, "Is Final Fantasy a pillar of PlayStation, as it has been stated? I always grew up with Final Fantasy being born of the Nintendo Entertainment System, because you an OG like me. Time to change the flag, Square." Yeah, Square is not going to live if they can't figure out a way to get out of this contract, because if this thing if Rebirth tanks and sells half of 7, folks, if you're not sure, let's say for instance you're tuning into this channel for the first time, how many copies between PS4, PS5, and PC did Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth sell? 7 million. That's not good. It's just not, folks. Sorry. So they're gonna have to figure this out. Thank you for the generosity, brother. We have Spartan661 who drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says Sony and Square have been knocked off their high horse with the smack of reality and are realizing that they are not the best anymore. I think. Okay, so the best way I can describe the current situation at Sony and Square is that they are making the right moves with personnel. Obviously, Square changed presidents. Right now, Sony is under the command of what it would be considered Amy Hood, the Amy Hood of Sony, and Hiroki Totoki is running the show. He's a money guy. They're bleeding. Both these companies are bleeding money left, right, and center. They have to figure out that what Microsoft is doing, even though a lot of us OGs like me are like, yeah, exclusives, they still matter. You got to kind of keep some stuff in house. They're realizing now that they can no longer be this one console, thing. They literally have to change with the times, otherwise they're just gonna die off. We have a second $10 super chat from Elemental PO. Thank you, brother. That's very generous of you. He says, think about this. If you can sell 1 million SKUs and make $1 per, why then go for a bulk of a one-time cash deal for exclusivity? Square is not an indie company here. Yeah, that's why the president was fired, because he made this deal with the devil, and they're kind of stuck. They're stuck selling their wares to one platform when there is, maybe you don't see this. Maybe you don't see Final Fantasy on the Switch, and I hear you, right? I absolutely hear you. But skipping, waiting years to get it to PC, that's dumb. Not putting it on Xbox, sorry. If anything, look, And I think I'm going to come back to the super chats. I want to bring Crispy in, and this is where I'm going to let you go crazy. If numbers matter to anyone that watches this industry, all you got to do is look at MLB The Show, which is being played 6 times more than any Sony player. That should tell you something. Final Fantasy VII Remake, if it would have been released on both consoles, I guarantee would have sold better on Xbox. And you know how I know that? More people right now, are playing Destiny on Xbox than on PlayStation. That's a fact. Crispy, let's talk about it, man.
You know, it cracks me up because people, the loudest people are generally the ones that don't do anything.
Yes.
They scream at the top of the rooftop and they say, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then they don't buy it. Instead, they just keep yelling about it. And this is where it gets crazy. You know, Square has probably seen these trends for a while. And PlayStation. I mean, let's be honest. Now they're bringing everything to PC. Expect everything to go to PC. So I look at it and I say, well, instead of buying a PlayStation 5, I might as well just get a PC. And, you know, if I want that ease of use, yeah, I'll boot up my Xbox. But if I want to play some of these games, I might as well just, you know, save the money, wait a little bit longer, and watch all these games come there. And then, I mean, they're generally single player. You know, some of them bring out DLC, some of them package it as a new game. That's up for your debate. But yeah, I can go and just wait it out. And hey, I mean, I'm not missing out on much. You know what I mean? So that's, I think, you know, the biggest mistake they made is they didn't go to PC. And I think it would have done so well that they might not have really cared so much about, you know, at least being the console side being PlayStation exclusive. But now I think, you know, to have changes of leadership on both ends of PlayStation and Square, they're moving people out of the way that have this old way of thinking. And if you don't want to see it, sorry, it's gonna happen no matter if you like it or not. And we went through this on the Xbox side just recently, okay? And you know, I'm one of the few that could sit here and say I'm still saying the same stuff. Things are changing, and you're gonna see games if they have a lagging player base, they're not, you know, quite getting the engagement, because that's really something that you're going to see more and more companies admittedly look to more than sales. If they don't go through this and say, this is how we make money, and sales, it could be great, but as we see with 50 million consoles, the amount of sales they get, it's just not the same. So that's why, okay, reinvigorate it, put it on PC. Problem is, you're putting out games that are years old. Yep. And the PC crowd, sorry, dude, they're on to the new hotness. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Yes, they'll be, if it has a multiplayer aspect, a co-op aspect, they will go back to those games. But if it's just you, they will play the new hotness, they will beat the new hotness, and they will move on. Now, will some people buy it? Will they get more sales? Absolutely. But I think Sony's realizing they're going to have to start looking to PC much, much sooner. If you go within 3 months, I think that's a great amount of time.
I agree.
You know what I mean? You know, if they really need that exclusive to just PlayStation, you know, put it out 3 months later. You've already probably hit your peak on sales. You know, that's when you start seeing them bundle stuff and all these other things. I mean, they know what's happening, and this is why you're seeing so many changes. Now, if you're in denial, that is up to you. I mean, I know Xbox guys that are still, you know, boom, kind of like, hey, I'm a dinosaur here. I really like my exclusives. You know what I mean? And he will at least admit it, but he doesn't sit there and say Crispy's wrong. He says, Crispy, you know, you're young enough to see the tides are turning. You know, we grew up when it was Nintendo versus Sega, and then Sony kicked the door in. Right. Okay. And then the most powerful box came out at that time was the Xbox. I had no interest in Xbox. I didn't play until the 360. I was playing PlayStation the whole time, but things change. Now we look at Game Pass as something significant. And you know what? When Game Pass is the all-end exclusive, you're going to go back and you're going to look at these shows and be like, Crispy said it the whole time, because it's going to happen at some point. Will it be 5-10 years? Possibly. They don't want to anger, loyal Xbox fans. And that's the same thing PlayStation's going through right now. But at the same time, I don't know. You might want to anger them because it doesn't seem like they buy the darn exclusives anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, you're not wrong. Look, sorry to bring it up again. Jim Ryan actually told you folks, PlayStation players aren't enough, and you're just not. And that's the thing. Like, people are like, well, the Xbox buy games. Well, here's the thing. I don't think they really care about sales like that anymore. And it's not because sales don't matter. Sales of anything matters. But when you have a subscription service, they would rather get 12 people to subscribe than 2 people to buy a game. That's facts, folks. Good stuff as always, Crispy.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Dreadpool. Get your final thoughts on this, and we're going to move on to Titanfall 3 because we have some new information on the fact that game might be sooner than later. And if in fact that's the case, I'm all for it. I'm a diehard fan of the series. I think that, and I said this in the opening, I don't know if it was cut from the last show or it's not. Every time Apex Legends does well, my heart sinks because every time Apex Legends does well, that means that it's less likely we're going to get a new Titanfall. And that's they've actually told us that they're making way too much money on Apex Legends, which is very sad. Not my kind of game. Yes, have I played it? I don't even consider. People are like, oh no, but they said it. It's lore, not my lore. As long as if you're not dropping Titans and you're running on walls, I could care less. But look, let's get your hot take on Square Enix potentially getting left holding the bag because the numbers are in Dreadpool. 263,000 units sold in Japan on the first week. It's not good. It's not good because it is a major AAA IP. But when you compare it to Final Fantasy VII Remake, which sold 703,000 copies in its first week, that's almost it's more than half falling off, and it's almost 3-1 to be honest with you. That's not good. What are your thoughts on the fact that this thing continues to just? It seems like it's not a bad game. It's gorgeous. I did hear several people say that it has a lot of fluff, which means that when in some of the later stages it just seems like it's kind of like rinse and repeat. That's fine. It's an RPG. What are your thoughts on the failings of this deal for Square Enix?
Well, I guess you can only do fetch my leg quest so many times before it gets fluffy. No, well, here's the thing. Let's backtrack to when we were children, right? There was only so many potential gamers possible at that time, right? So you think about that, and it made sense to be very competitive with exclusivity, with all this stuff, right? But now there are so many more gamers. Think about it, right? We were dorks. Does anybody remember that word? Do you guys remember that word, dork? Okay, that's what we used to hear all the time. We were dorks for playing games. If you were doing something like some sort of club, if you're a band, you're a band geek, right? Nowadays, you're in band, you're cool. Nowadays, you're a gamer, you're cool. Pop culture that used to be for those weirdos is now mainstream. Okay, so you think of those demographics.
We took all the arrows for the kids these days.
We did.
Yes, we absolutely
did. So when you look at that, right, and you look at their demographic at that time and the numbers that they were to hit, of course it made sense back then, right? Now you're looking at a different set of demographic, totally different mentality when it comes to all this, right? So those numbers no longer can provide you stability when it comes to staying in the alive for making these games. It's not going to happen. See, and that's the problem is people are forgetting that. How much, right? I've talked about the 360 and PS3 days. Those games were anywhere from 3 gig to 6 gig, right? Now where are we at? 150 gig, right? You're looking at how the size of these teams that they're building. Something way back when was 1 or 2 men, and we're going to 300 people and then you have other outside developers that are also assisting you build your game. I mean, look at COD. Look at how big COD has become and how many support studios it has had. Look at what happened with Halo when they got rid of their support studios because they're like, okay, we don't need you guys anymore. Nope, wrong move. You still need them. You still have to have your support. So when you look at those numbers, of course, it is not the same as it was back then. You could go for a loss because it was only a couple 100,000. Now you're talking about millions of dollars. You're talking, you know what I mean? It's totally different of a loss when you're putting out this much, and to be locked in. You know, again, it's good to see the old heads when it comes to business being moved out because it's the
they have to be more forward thinking for sure.
Yeah, let's put it what it truly is. It's a good old boy network. It's exactly what it is. You know, we've been best buds. We've worked together so good. Sega did that with Xbox. They're like, you know what? We did so good together, and we want to stay. You know, we want to be able to fight against Sony because Sony put us out. We're going to help you guys out. We're going to do this. You know, this is best for us because it's going to be best for you. And so we're definitely going to team up against them. You know, and this is what they did. I mean, this is how the good old boy network worked. You know, you didn't like somebody, you pushed them out. You know, and you teamed up with the best people that you could to push out those other people. You know, so when you're locked in a contract like that, and you're not forward thinking of what the future is going to be, and trying to predict that, it is what it is. You're going to get pushed out. You know, and like you said, Jim Ryan even said we cannot support these games because they're not getting the support back from the players. You know, so again, deceptive practices comes to mind. If you think about what they have said and done, and here we are, they're stuck in this contract and this deal because, you know, it worked before and it's not working. You got to see where the future is headed, and nobody likes change, but change is always happening. You know, hopefully you guys change your underwear this morning because, you know, you guys don't like change, but you're going to sit there and
don't stew in it, folks. Don't do it
with a mud pie. You know what I mean? So change it.
Oh my!
Good grief! This is.
I'm just saying, man. Just saying. You guys don't want this change, but this is stuff that has to happen. This is stuff that has to happen. If you want to hit these numbers, you want to hit we're still going by the old metrics that don't matter anymore. Think about that. Why are we advertising so many consoles sold? If again, what did we say before, Boom? You bought how many PlayStation 4 consoles? But you're still one player.
Me and my brother were good for 8.
Right.
Just the two of us.
But there's only 2. The other ones were, I'm sure you guys did the
well, you know, we bought the PlayStation 4. We bought the PlayStation 4 Pro. Oh no. Okay, so we both bought the PlayStation 4. Then we both got the Destiny edition. Right, so we upgraded to the special edition console.
But
then we both upgraded to PlayStation 4 Pro. And then when the God of War edition came out, Mrs. Boom knows I'm a big fan of Kratos. She bought me that, and my brother bought another. I think it might have been a Destiny one that he bought because he's a Destiny head, or was anyway. So we were good for 8 just for us.
So out of all those 8 consoles you bought, did you buy 8 games?
No, we did not.
You bought 1.
Right.
And that's the thing. That's the difference between a subscription service like Game Pass versus going and saying, I've got so many consoles here, but yet your percentage isn't there, right? Your recurring revenue on a subscription service will always be more. So, you know, because I didn't buy this game, guess what? They're still getting money out of me. Regardless if I bought the game or not, I'm playing the game. That money percentage goes to that game. So they're still seeing money coming out of me percentage wise. As long as I play that game within that month, hey, someone played the game this month. Boom, pull out that percentage. You know, and again, it's that Excel format that everybody keeps on forgetting. You can manipulate Excel to look good or to look bad. I've seen it happen several hundred times over and over again. I've proven my point at work when I change up the numbers, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't look at it like that." I'm like, "Yeah, because so and so manipulated it to look better this way." I said, "So it just depends on what metrics you're looking for, and here we are. What metrics are we looking for? Oh, we're looking for console metrics." Seriously though, when you have a 2% sale out of all those consoles, that doesn't
It's
do
not.
good.
No, it's
You know what
definitely
I
not
mean?
good. You know what's
10% ain't good either.
Yeah, no, it's not when you look when some people will argue with you. Oh, 10% of the populace is good. It's not. Honestly, it really isn't. Let me bring
That's why they want
Chaos
like
Mite Super.
$100 games.
Right? No, absolutely. Chaos Mite brings up a great point. He drops a very generous $10 super chat and says Final Fantasy VII sales data is only from Japan right now. They also have some of it from Europe. We know that it's tracking 30% less than 7 for physical. We don't know what the details are for the digital, right? We don't know that right now. But he does say something that's interesting here. Final Fantasy VII has never been a fan favorite in Japan. Only in the West it has. Well, at least most recently. Final Fantasy VII has been catering to the Western market since 7. Indeed. And what's interesting, and I think where this is the real telling point of the conversation, and then of course we're gonna move on to the next topic of the show, is the fact that neither Sony or Square Enix have boasted numbers, which they both will do to get people, to buy their game. Oh, we sold 3 million copies of this game. You should definitely check it out. Well, a week has passed since its release, and it's not saying that it's not a good game. That is not even a part of the conversation. It is an amazing game. Now, granted, it released with some things that I don't know why it got 9 if it was broken. Like, for instance, the company has asked you to play the game in 30 frames versus the 60 frames that everyone says is the key number, because the performance mode is broken and it's not going to be fixed for about 2 months. I don't care about 30 frames for a single player game. That doesn't bother me. A multiplayer game, I'd have a problem with it. But it's fine. It is what it is. Apparently 30 frames is okay. But the real teller here, folks, the tip of the hand, if you will, from both Square Enix and Sony as to why this game is not doing well is because they're not talking about it. Because if it would have sold 3 million copies across the world on opening week, you rest assured you would have seen a tweet from Square Enix and PlayStation. And they would have boasted, oh, look, you see, it's a console exclusive, only available on PlayStation. And they're not doing that. And that's a problem. That is definitely a problem. Anything else you want to add to the conversation, Dreadpool?
No, we're good.
Okay, so let me just...
I don't want to dwell in those drawers.
Change your drawers, people. You're nasty. And now I'm going to be ruined for the rest of the day. Norse Monster drops a very generous $5 super chat. It says, I've been a fan of Final Fantasy since the original Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, man, I beat that in Japanese using FAQs back in the days. And when it came out to the PlayStation America, I beat it again. One of my favorite Final Fantasies of all time. Highlander 001. Hey, Highlander, welcome back, brother. Sorry I didn't welcome you personally. This has been just a bit of a shit show, to be honest, with us getting kicked out of YouTube for having to restart the stream. He drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, if the sales are bad for Final Fantasy, what does that mean for the future of Marvel games and their margins and price of games? I mean, yeah, I can tell you this right now. I don't have this on good authority outside of just a hunch, but if Sony could charge $90 a game, they would charge $90 a game. They really would. And Marvel, like people are like, we're talking on the socials of whether or not that 30% increase was going to affect Sony now. I say no. I think that Spider-Man 3 is contracted for 25%. I think Venom, the Lethal Protector game that they're making, which is going to be like a Miles Morales-sized title, is contracted for 25%. I even would dare say that even though Wolverine isn't coming out probably until 2026 now because of the leaks, that's also probably contracted for 25%. Anything else that they do afterwards would probably fall into that new 33% margin, which is a lot. And we don't know if that price margin would go up, maybe if they start bundling stuff, because I think Marvel's getting hip to the fact that they're bundling Spider-Man, their owned IP in every console, and right now they're taking half. They take 50%. Would that increase? I don't know, because I don't have the contracts in front of me, but you just saw EA walk away from Marvel and Star Wars, right? And EA is one of the biggest ones in the bunch. That's pretty telling, folks. Decided D drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, let's not forget, console gaming itself is niche as time goes on, and it's going to continue to shrink. That is why they need to release on PC and mobile. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mobile is huge. It's one of the biggest platforms going. There's no doubt about it. PC is definitely, you just look what happened with Helldivers. It makes sense to do day and date. But boxing out the Xbox for the I just still think is really shitty. But they'll eventually. I don't think any of those contracts are going to be signed with the new president. I think that what you're seeing happen here is proof as to why Square Enix can't survive as a company if they continue to do this. We have JJ saying 117 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, Final Fantasy definitely should be multi-platform as it's amazing. Also, the creator of Final Fantasy said without Dragon Ball, there would be no Final Fantasy. Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. Yeah, if you missed of course, everyone missed it because we went off the air and I was talking to myself. It was just ridiculous that the legendary anime creator, Akira Toriyama, has passed away at the age of 68. Very sad indeed. Thank you for the super chat, brother, and thank you for the sentiment. God Emperor Sofa King drops a very generous $2 super chat, and he also says, "Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama." Thank you so much for that. Yodani Quizada drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Silent Cypher and Boom. Hello, kind sir. Thank you for the generosity and thank you for being here. Dragon Wolf says this after dropping a very generous $5 super chat. If Sony ends up buying Square, they're clever. Pay for the exclusive, tank Square's value, and buy Square. I don't think that they would be able to. And here is why. Square Enix is a publisher in Japan. They are a market leader by 98% of the market there. I don't know if the regulators in Japan would allow them acquiring Square. Now, I could be 1,000% wrong, but they have a huge hold in that country. Now, is the Switch more popular? Yes, it is. But PlayStation is very well known there. I don't know. Listen, it would be kind of effed up if you think about that, but I don't know if there was an ulterior motive, like, hey, let's tank them and then go buy them for peanuts. It sounds devious, and business is devious, as we know. I don't know if they're that devious, but thanks so much, Dragon Wolf. Scott Woodford, who's been a channel member for 2 months. Thank you for supporting the channel, Scott. He says, as a wrestling fan, we are still looking at we still look as weirdos as they're saying Sega Master System was my first console. Listen, brother, I watched wrestling, the best wrestling ever in the history of wrestling. I don't watch wrestling now. I know it's really good. For me, WCW in the 90s, obviously that is pinnacle. The NWO, my favorite freaking time in wrestling. They would just come out and beat the balls off everybody and take over. And Bischoff was amazing. Sorry. I loved it. Let's see. Trey Bone 408, who's been a channel member for 8 months, brother. Thank you for the incredible support. He says this: Square Enix is about to start going behind Sony's back and start cheating, giving up their goodies and good parts to Big Daddy Moneybags, aka Sancho Microsoft. That's good stuff.
They're
well
goodie
written,
parts.
kind sir. Well written indeed. Elemental PO drops an additional very generous $5 super chat and says, I think everyone listening has to understand that it's not about Xbox or PlayStation. It is about the health of Square. Yeah, and you know something? That's a great point. But if we say that, if an Xbot like me says that, people are not going to take it serious. Going to be like, oh, this Boom guy is just, sucking the taint of Xbox and he wants everything there. I actually care about the companies. I like Square. Do I love Square? Are they number one for me? No, but I do really love Final Fantasy VII. I really wanted it on the Xbox, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And that contract could potentially doom Square Enix. They keep losing money. It's only a matter of time. That's all I'm going to say. And the numbers prove it. The numbers right now, the first week of any game, you are supposed to see the best numbers ever because it's the first week of the game. That's not happening now. And Square and Sony are not talking about it. That is the telltale, folks. Lastly, Nino Vestek, who has been very generous to the channel, he has once again donated a double barrel gaming membership. So if you got that membership, please thank this person. Or I'm saying man, but it could be a girl for all we know, or a woman. So thank you, Nino Vestek. Very appreciate the generosity. I mean, it's just been every day you've dropped one, and we definitely appreciate it here. You don't have to, and you do, and we are very humbled and grateful for the support. Okay, folks, look, I want to pull up the report. Anyone that knows me that's been following the channel for a while understand that for me personally, Titanfall, man, I mean, listen, I don't have a business degree, right? What do I know? I'm a knucklehead podcaster. But I think that if they came out with like a legit good as gold, like take the best parts of one, merge them with two, and make Titanfall 3. If that was a free-to-play game, I'm not going to front. I'd probably be a whale for that game. Like if and again, I'd rather just them make a game that I play. I buy the game and I get some DLC. That's fine. I buy a deluxe edition. I get a bunch of DLC. Great. But I'm not going to front. If that was a straight up Apex Legends type of title, and not in the goofy artwork that Apex. I hate the artwork for Apex Legends. It's just not my bag. Titanfall is dirty, and it's Call of Duty esque because Vince Zampella, obviously, his DNA is Call of Duty. That's why I love it. It's filthy. It's gritty. It's violent. You're dropping mechs on people. Who has played this game and dropped a mech on a mech? How dope that feels when you see one out there and you drop and boom, it crushes the other one, explodes everything. That's amazing. So I pulled a story from one of my favorite places to get news these days. And listen, you know, your miles may vary on whether or not you trust them. I happen to really like the Andy Robinson run VGC. Well, Tom Ivan is a writer for this website, and I happen to like Tom's work as well. And he had put out a story that I want to talk about today. And I'm going to start, of course, with Silent Cypher. And it says this: Silent. The new game from Titanfall's director is reportedly set in the same universe. It's claimed the project, which isn't Titanfall 3, is still in a prototype phase. Now, I say Titanfall 3 because it's in a prototype phase. I'm hoping that it morphs into 3. I want to know more of the story, but I suppose that at this point, I'm so desperate for anything new on Titanfall. It don't got to be Titanfall 3. And I don't care whether it's a single player. I don't care if it's a multiplayer only. Give me more Titanfall. So this is what Tom had to say in his article. Respawn Entertainment is reportedly working on a new game set in the Titanfall universe. Hopefully, God willing, it's not a part of Apex Legends, which I cannot stomach. And he goes on to say in the article, Silent Cypher, that's according to Giant Bomb's reporter, Jeff Grubb, who was discussing Respawn's current projects after it was confirmed that parent company Electronic Arts has canceled their Star Wars first-person shooter that has been in development at the studio. Announcing the game's cancellation, EA Entertainment and Technology President Laura Meal said it would allow the Apex Legends maker to focus on new projects based on Respawn's rich library of owned IPs, in addition to existing series like Star Wars Jedi. Now, one last part before I hand it over to you, Silent Cypher. He goes on, Tom Ivan goes on to say last year, Respawn's boss, Vince Zampella, said a very small team was in the early stages of developing an original IP at the studio. The code word is Skunkworks, and which okay, but the team, and this is where it gets important, folks. This is where the devil is in the details. The team is being led by director of Titanfall 1 and 2, Steve Fukuda. And he was he was the game director of Titanfall 1 and 2. And look, I think after the increase in price at Marvel from 25% to 33% might fast track this game. Now, whether it's going to be free to play like Apex Legends, which I just gave them $1 million idea. I'll get no credit for it. That's fine. Just release the game so I can play it. Are you a fan of the IP and do you want to see it come back?
Yeah, I mean, going back to like the early Xbox One days when that came out, like I'm sure you were in the same boat, right? Like getting the controller, getting the game, jumping
have
into
'em.
that thing. Yeah,
I got the collector's editions right here. I got both the mech and the helmet right here.
nice. Yeah, so I mean, for me, yeah, like I would love to see something in this universe come back, and like you said, it would be great for it to kind of like migrate and shift scope to becoming Titanfall 3 instead of just something in that universe. But the fact that we've got something that's in that universe, I think is a big first step, right? Because if we have that and if this goes well, it's going to continue probably to expand that universe more. Like EA has clarified that they don't want to do as many of these big license deals. And this is something that they have in house that they could really flesh out and they could make multiple games in this universe. So I think with that being said, there's a lot of possibilities moving forward. Like maybe this doesn't become a Titanfall 3, but if this does well, and knowing that they're trying to focus on their own existing IPs, like maybe we see a Titanfall 3 and we see other games fleshed out in that universe because they already have that. They don't have to pay for the licensing. It's there. And we might actually see, a Titanfall 3 that we were convinced would never happen after EA literally sandwiched Titanfall 2 right in between Battlefield and Call of Duty.
They literally set it off to die. Like we don't
Yeah.
care who. And I'm glad you brought that up because that is marketing stupidity 101. How
Yeah.
are we in a world where you take a first-person shooter that's a direct sequel to the original? We all learned that direct sequels don't normally sell unless you're a Call of Duty or Battlefield, and sandwich it in between. That is so ridiculous.
And let alone the fact that Battlefield's an EA title too. So the fact that someone in EA had the hubris to think like, yeah, it'd be just fine if we put Titanfall out there also. Like maybe there were bad relationships and someone wanted to do this because they wanted to see them fail. But like, why would you do that? Like they cost themselves so much money. They damaged an IP by literally sending it out to die. Like it was unnecessary what happened to it, and it deserved more light than it ever got. So I think this would be a really good thing for them, and I'm really excited about the prospect of another game in that universe. I think just the nature of that universe is very bombastic. It's very like larger than life with the mechs and with all the characters and stuff. I think you could do a lot of really cool things with it. So I hope, like I said, I don't know if this will become a Titanfall 3, but I have a feeling if this does well enough, we will see more in this universe, maybe a Titanfall 3 and maybe other offshoots.
I'd like to see it. I think that there is an entire world that's not Apex Legends. I hated that they like, oh no, this is part of this.
Yeah.
Why?
It's not the same. Like you
It
put
is.
that over in the corner. I don't want that.
Yeah. Take your goofy looking characters and just get rid of them. Right? Just put them off to the side. No one cares. Apparently, a lot of people care. I don't personally care. I want a Titanfall now, and so. Fuzzy, let's bring you into the conversation because this is interesting. For me, as a fan, and I want people to know this, you could probably pick up Titanfall now for like 2 cents. What do you want to see a sequel?
I kind of want to see a sequel, but I have a feeling that this isn't going to be Titanfall 3. What I think they're going to do, because EA is poised at the perfect time to do this, they're going to capitalize on the hotness of Helldivers too. And they're going to make it where it's almost a blend of like Helldivers and the original Titanfall, where you can. It won't be like Apex Legends where it's like 3v3, but it'll be like you versus a horde of enemies or some sort of opposing force. And at certain points, you can call in your Titans to kind of change the battlefield or change the momentum of the battlefield. So I'm hoping, because EA is famous for, like, I wouldn't say stealing ideas, but borrowing ideas from other games at certain times. And considering how well received Helldivers was, I think they kind of lean into that and have it where you drop into the world and then you do enough damage or you collect enough resources, and then you could start having your Titans drop in and stuff like that. So especially considering Helldivers, I think, is having a delay on the mechs, which it's pure genius on how the developer, I guess when they run into delays, they could just say, oh, well, that thing that we were making, the planet's being attacked, so the production's been halted or something like that. But anyway, and when it comes to this game in the Titanfall universe, I think it's going to be a Helldivers similar themed game, but with Titans in it. And I think that will have possibly the Apex Legends group happy, Titanfall fans happy, and probably even attract new fans into the genre. So we'll see. What do you think, Dreadpool?
All right. What I
No,
think?
sorry about that. Yeah, I was on mute. What a knucklehead. No, I mean, great points all around. I just, if they decide to, oh my God, if they decide to use these knucklehead characters from Apex Legends, at least make them look realistic. Like, make them look like Titanfall. That's the best thing I can. That's the best thing I could say. I mean, I like the idea of potentially a Helldivers type of situation where it would be, I guess mechs that would be dropped, or it would be, just regular, like troopers, and then you would eventually, get the level up, and then you drop your Titan, and you're fighting hordes of enemies. I think that's great. And EA does steal stuff; they all do it all the time. Look, what I was going to say before, of course, I was interrupted by UPS ringing my doorbell. How dare they? During a show. Fuzzy, if there's one thing I can say about this new situation that's in front of us, I actually don't care which way they go. I would like a multiplayer for sure, but if it was a single player and it was a smaller story, I'm okay with that too. Because if folks, like I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, you can pick up Titanfall 2 for like a penny or 2 cents.
Yeah.
It is probably one of the best single player campaigns you've ever not played. A lot of people skipped on it. Play that game. Go get it. If you have Game Pass, the EA Vault, go download Titanfall 2. Play the single player. I'm here to tell you, it is emotional. It is one of the best in the business. And a lot of people skipped out on it. But Crispy Bomb, you're our resident multiplayer guy like myself. You're obviously, I'm Halo. You play Gears. Titanfall was the talk of the town for a long time in multiplayer. It was Call of Duty with mechs. That's what it was known for. Phenomenally done. 1 was better than 2, to be honest with you. That's just my take on it. But it's fine. Do you want to see a Titanfall something come back to gaming?
I kind of like Fuzzy's idea because I'm not the greatest at the PvP with the games like that. I mean, obviously it was definitely fun for me. Played it a bunch of times in community game night because of the mechs and because it provided a different aspect to kind of at least make me feel like I'm doing something in the positive. At that time, like. It looks, and the game still looks good, by the way, which is just absurd. because it's darn old. And I mean, on the Series X, it looks really good. So you really got to look at, and I'm with you. Like, I never understood the Apex in Titanfall universe. It doesn't make sense. Like, if anything, just, you know, make it its own thing. Apex can be its own thing. If you want to like cross over, then like, you know, make it like a universe thing. Like they're in two different universes, but they can come together. Like, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things. Like, Titanfall should be its own thing. It should be used. I mean, we look at Anthem, like, EA, bro, you have something there, but you just like gave up, and you should have released it as a full product instead of the state it was in. But at the same time, like, you know, make another one or remake it in a way that people can go and fly around like Iron Man. Like, that was cool, but it was just so, I think it was too ahead of its time at that point, because the loading and all that other stuff. I think if it was released on these newer consoles, I think it would have came out in a much better state. And I think Titanfall has the ability to reinvigorate itself because it was so like thrown to the wolves with Call of Duty and even its own Battlefield. And I think people ignored it so much that if it came out now within that universe using the mechs and the gunplay was crisp and all these other things that were really, really good about it, you go and say it could bring a new audience in here, and then you potentially have the opportunity to use this IP instead of going after the 33% that Disney's asking for, and have something that you can sustain over time. I mean, it's just like we have said many times, where's Battlefield Bad Company? You know what I'm saying? Like, these IPs that they're just sitting there for EA to use that really have had plenty of time to just sit there, and there's so many newer gamers out that you could bring it back. Like, you know, the Bad Company was so much grittier than what we have for Battlefield now. You know, I mean, it had a good, strong story to it as well. And I think, you know, if they just bring out something type of, even if it's small to test the waters, if it's something innovative but copying like a Helldivers-esque type thing, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can go. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't have much faith in EA. I'm sorry.
I mean, you're not wrong. They like to step on rakes too. Again, this is why this. You can see it on your screen, folks. I recorded this. This is running at 100. No, you can't tell. I'm running at 120 frames. Shout out to Glacier Don, who says I'm playing part 2 right now at 120 frames per second on my Samsung TV. It plays great. Yeah, so was I when I recorded this footage. It is freaking so fast and so phenomenal. And it just breeds free to play. Like, it really does. And people like me who are fans of this genre, first person shooters, and more specifically the IP, will spend money. I just don't understand. Again, Apex Legends came out of nowhere. It was shadow dropped. Everyone loved it. I played it for a bit. I'm just not that guy, and it's fine. I want an official Titanfall. This gives me help. It gives me hope, I should say. Dreadpool, let's get your final thoughts on this, man, and we're gonna get everyone out of here. Show is gonna end a little earlier than normal, only because we had the 2 topics, and we unfortunately got a little bit paused. Unless I can figure out something else to talk about. Let me see. You know what? I do have a third topic. We'll bring it up. We'll stay to 2 hours. Dreadpool, let's get your hot take on a new Titanfall game. Are you interested or nay?
You know, that's the funny thing is, I am interested, but then I started getting scared when I started thinking about what they could be bringing out, and my first thought was, please don't be Everwild, don't be bringing some sort of animals into the Titanfall universe that has nothing to do with anything. Because I mean, we didn't see Battle Royale coming out of Titanfall. We didn't see it, you know what I mean? But they did do something good with it. You know, it might not be your kind of game. The visuals, I know, you know, not everybody's happy with, but you know, it turned out to be a decent game, and for them, it turned out to be a hit. You know, but again, we all love the original Titanfall, and we want to see something like that. You know, but I do like Helldiver's outlook on it. I do like the Anthem, and unfortunate Anthem. They presented the game before the game was even a game, which was kind of their fault. They screwed up in the first place. They didn't even have a game. They had some visuals and they're
Demo
like, oh
footage,
yeah,
really. Yeah.
so that's all it was. So, but it was at that time, it was the best flying mechanics that anybody's ever had. You felt like Iron Man. You felt, you know, that could have been a Superman mechanic right there. All that stuff was primo, you know, and that could have been something that, again, other developers could have utilized, even if, you know, EA didn't do anything with their own people. But again, you know, I think certain types of games are lend to be borrowed with their mechanics. You just can't do the exact same thing. Do it different, do it better. And I'm just trying to think. I mean, Helldivers sounds very, very reasonable. A lot better than Everwild. when I first popped up with, like, please don't be something like this, because I seriously, I couldn't think of what else you could do if you're not going to do anything with Titanfall. And obviously we know that's mechs. We want mechs, but whatchamacallit, Apex has no mechs. You know, so it's like, well, what are we, you know, what are we doing here? What kind of gameplay are we going to have? So whatever it is, for the devs' sake, I hope that they come out with a game that we all like, or at least the majority of us like. And I'm not going to judge it beforehand. Just the only judgment is, please don't be Everwild. That's it, really. But yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to see what they have.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, it's at least I'll put it to this way. For me, it's like Dumb and Dumber. So there's a chance, right? Like that's my inner child. Like, okay, so there's a chance we could get something. Whether it's going to be free to play, whether it's going to be a full on, you know, you buy the game like you would a Call of Duty and it has multiplayer, or it's going to be a single player, or a combination of of all three in some way or another. I'm in. I just want more Titanfall in our lives. For
Yeah.
me personally, I want to see what new hardware could do with an IP that deserves so much more than goofy characters in Apex Legends. I'm sorry, I think it's worth more. Listen, that's just my hot take on it.
Yeah, I think it's just too vague, and the thing, the way that they said the negative part of it is like, wait a second. That's what's getting me. You know what I mean? So we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
So this next topic is interesting because I didn't see anyone talking about it. Now, again, we'll spend the next couple of minutes here kind of just talking about it, because here's the thing, folks. Usually when you have someone like Hazardor Gaming reporting on something, if he gets it wrong, he puts a redaction on it. He cancels the tweet, and no one hears from it because he got it wrong, and he's honorable like that. So he put out a tweet yesterday that no one picked up. It does have a significant amount of views, 52.9 thousand views. And none of the major publications picked up what he was putting down. And it's an anti-Sony situation. And again, we're not doing this for console war rhetoric. We're doing it because I thought it was, we have some time left in the show. I don't want to shortchange anybody. So we'll talk about it. Originally, it was on the docket to talk about, but here we go. Hazardor Gaming reported this yesterday, where some PlayStation 5 owners have lost complete access to their games as their digital purchases were wiped from their accounts due to a bug in PlayStation. All digital licenses, including purchased games and titles, have that you have added to one's library via PlayStation Plus become decoupled from your transaction history. And this was reported on Reddit. Now the person that's reporting on it is verified. They are r/PlayStation D Suds 2342. And he says, PSA, people are losing access to their digital licenses and people need to be talking about it. Well, apparently no one is. I have my stuff is still there. I checked this morning. I did not have an issue with it. Anyone in the chat, if you are someone that is having an issue with this, I thought maybe they got hacked again. Because Sony has their cybersecurity, put together with some toothpicks and some paper clips. I don't know. I mean, again, this is a lot of people didn't run with this, and I'm very surprised. But then at the same time, I'm not very surprised. Let's talk about it. I mean, the information is it's not that it's vague. We do have here. So okay, so let's read what it was posted, Silent Cipher, on Reddit. It says, for the last few months, there have been a bug impacting a relatively small amount of PlayStation PSN users, in which all digital licenses, including purchased games and titles added to one's library via PlayStation Plus, have become decoupled from your transaction history, which shows that you purchased those things. If this happens to you, your transaction history will look normal, but your purchase tab in your games library on PlayStation.com's website will only show the titles that were added after you became afflicted by the bug. Any games before you were hit with the bug will be inaccessible on your console. If you try to download them, it will want you to re-add from PlayStation Plus. But if you try to do that, it will tell you already own the content. This is one of those stories that, again, it's a bit of a bonus conversation. It is not console war rhetoric. It's more like hey, PlayStation owners, if you haven't turned on your system, go check your shit because it might not be available. Let's talk about it, Silent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. We were having this conversation in our little group chat for Xbox International yesterday. And when it came up, I think Louis posted it, or maybe one of the other guys did. And like Louis made a comment, and I was like, dude, this is old. We were all like, no, this is old. This is like months old. But that's the problem about this situation is, like it even says in the article, like this has been a thing that happened and has still been affecting people over time for months. And it's not a good situation. Like this should be causing more issue. And maybe it's a very small amount of people that are getting affected by it, but that doesn't make it better. Like if it was, it doesn't matter who it is, be it Nintendo, Xbox, Steam, whatever, like you name your favorite preference and choice on that one. Like if it happens there, you're going to be hesitant about buying content there moving forward. You're going to be nervous that you're going to jump on there one day and just not be able to play your games, which sucks. And that's a whole conversation in its own about like physical to digital media and stuff, right? Like the pitfalls of us going to digital media. There are concerns, there are problems. Not everyone has the exact same well-structured ecosystem as other groups do. And so like when you purchase a game, to have that nervousness that it's not going to be there for you to play, or that it's going to say, no, you don't own this anymore, like that sucks. As a consumer in general, that sucks. But yeah, it shocked me that this was still a thing. I'd honestly, when it happened back at that point, I had hoped that they took care of it. But then to see that this reporting's coming back out again, like it's a problem. Like,
Yeah.
How does this not get fixed?
Well, how come no one's talking about it?
Yes,
See,
that's
that's I think the real conundrum here. Like I said, if this would have been, I think, folks, this is where it gets a little messy. and I don't think I'm laying down any falsities here. If this would have been Xbox, everyone would have reported on this.
They would have lost their minds on it.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. It's where we are in social media and in reporting right now. It doesn't matter what it is. If Sony does it, you see the kitty gloves come out, and people are like, well, it's okay because they haven't done this all the time. It's fine. If they say anything at all, which 9 times out of 10, they don't say anything at all, or they just post it and say, just a heads up. They don't criticize them for the issue. And it's just one of those things. Like, I know people, I saw in the chat already, XboxTax again, like if we got to break it down, it's very simple. XboxTax is used because it triggers people. All it is preference or bias by a specific person. And we all have it. We all have our preferences and bias. I don't prefer Nintendo. I have a problem with their behaviors over the last couple decades, as it were, in regards to back compat and some of the different decisions they've made. That's my personal bias against them. I personally do not enjoy their stuff because of what they've done. So if you throw a Nintendo article at me for me to talk about, odds are I'm probably not as interested as maybe I am in an ecosystem I prefer. That's how we all are. We all have our preference.
You're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. It's just, it's interesting that I didn't know you guys were talking about this. I did not know that this was an actual issue until I saw it. And I think what's even more strange, Fuzzy Belvedere, is the fact that no one in the gaming media is talking about this. Now, granted, you can run with 1,000 narratives as to why that is, but this is one of those stories that I think should be talked about. Because if this was happening on Xbox and happened to me, I would be telling you folks, hey, go check your shit. Xbox has done it again. More rake stepping. But this is Sony. Sony's the market leader. We know that they have a significant amount of interest and investment in a lot of these media sites. That's a fact. This is one of those topics as a consumer you should be checking, and you should want to hear about it, because what if it happens to you? How do you fix it? Because it doesn't say anywhere how to fix it. And if it's Sony's customer service, good freaking luck. Let's talk about
the
it.
service that you have to be like level 5 to even get heard type of thing.
Oh, yes. Yes.
No,
yeah,
but
level 5 to at least get someone to take your call.
No, Sony has had issues with their store stuff for some time, and whether it's the simple fact that refunding a game is near impossible once you download it, kind of thing, even if you haven't played it, that to me is ridiculous, and that's still something that's allowed to happen. I really hope at some point the EU and other consumer protection agencies around the world, because here in the States, the consumer protection stuff isn't necessarily on top of things. They're more focused, or the FTC is more focused on mergers and billion-dollar companies than consumer protection stuff. But in any event, I remember they had a similar issue when they allowed you to change your PSN ID. There was a thing where you would lose access to all your games, and it's like you call customer service and you were kind of SOL at that point. So this is nothing new with Sony. The rare occasion that something like this happens with Xbox, and things like this happen, but not the exact same way. Like the closest I've experienced, and I would say 3 times since 2014 or 15, 3 times this has happened where you go to play a game and it says you don't own it, even though you do own it, kind of thing. And it's usually when they're doing an update to either Game Pass or something on the website is being updated. And you know what? It's usually fixed in 4 hours. I can't think of a time where I didn't see somebody complain about, hey, I can't play my games that I own, or it's somebody that's game sharing and they can't play the game shared games because of the home console situation or whatever. And it's like, oh, 4 hours later, it's fixed. But we never hear a fix on the PlayStation issue as far as, oh, you lost your library? Haha, sucks to be you kind of thing. I don't know. I just, the media isn't going to fret about it until it happens directly to them. And I've seen a couple of them have a similar issue. Like I don't think it was Paul Tassi. I think it was somebody that he sometimes does podcasts with that had the issue where they changed their PSN and they lost all their DLC or something. But they never, it was like that story went away. So I'm assuming somebody in PR probably just gave them new licenses and, the story magically disappeared. But it never ceases to amaze me that, stuff like this is kind of swept under the rug. It's like, oh, just call customer service. Oh yeah, that same customer service where they said there was going to be tiers and you had to be signed up to their top subscription service to be able to be in the considered tier to talk to a live person. Yeah, that one. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's utter nonsense for the most part that you can buy digital things and they just randomly disappear. Then you do attempt to rebuy them because you get so frustrated because there's no solution to fix it. And it's like, oh, you already own this. You can't rebuy what you already own, but then you can't play what you supposedly already own. I don't know. Hopefully at some point, I hope the EU slaps them with like $1 billion fine or something for this ridiculousness. And hopefully they're the ones that bring them to the table to kind of get these situations fixed. Because if we rely on the gaming media or the PlayStation fans, with the exception of like the one or two that, post on Twitter, and then you have all these bots saying, oh, DM this person on Instagram, they'll help you. Type of thing. Yeah. And until the EU price steps up, this will never get fixed. I guarantee it. That's it.
And that's a shame. That's a real shame because, like I said, what it's being spoken about on Reddit, it's that it's growing. Now, is it 10%, 30%, 50%? No, if it was 50%, we know about it. Someone in the media would talk about it, at least try to anyway. Let's get your hot take on this, Crispy Bomb. What are your thoughts on the fact that we're not hearing about this at all from any of the major publications?
This is it's something else, man. Like, and this is where it's, as Xbox gamers, like, generally it'll come from Xbox pretty quickly when they start finding out that something like this is a problem. We see it all, like when Live is down, or Game Pass isn't working correctly. You usually say, hey, we're working on it. So at least you get that acknowledgement. And then the media will go and like be like, oh, and you'd be like, it's not like something they're not addressing already. And I didn't even know. Like, I saw it. I said, okay, why isn't anyone talking about this? And to find out that it's actually been going on for as long as it has is concerning. And it almost sounds like, and obviously I'm not a tech guru, but it sounds like it's actually probably some type of virus that is like multiplying in some weird way. And what they're going to address it when it's the biggest issue like it could possibly be. I mean, why is it still being an
Sony,
issue?
So the answer is probably, yeah. That
like, because at the end of the day, like, anytime I've ever seen a lot of people that know about PlayStation and how, it's like duct tape holding their cybersecurity together, they basically use gift cards to purchase things. Which, like me, I have all my info on my Xbox. I've never had an issue of concern about that. I've had more issues on, like websites and stuff. All of a sudden you see, oh, there was a data leak, like I think T-Mobile or something like that. I've never really had that type of issue. I've had the similar issue that some of you had with, your game's not working, or you don't own it. But I can't believe that Sony doesn't, like, it doesn't seem like they invest in, the infrastructure of their ecosystem as far as like purchases and things like that. And
yep.
I'm with Fuzzy on this. I mean, the regulators, they're just focused on the wrong things. They need to address this license thing. We are in a digital age. There needs to be concrete laws in place to make sure that these companies have to abide by our purchase. And, we see like the FTC worrying about Microsoft right now.
Yep.
And I'm sure Microsoft's probably like sitting there, they're the ones that said, hey, there needs to be laws in place about AI. Like they're the ones that said it. So I'm sure they're probably like, it's kind of funny that they don't talk about this license thing. You know what I mean? And they're worried about us with ABK right now because they do look at the landscape and they say, hey, like this could be a problem down the road. Let's address it now and be on the right side of history. You know what I mean? So I don't understand what they're doing. I don't understand why Sony has got to have these problems constantly. And they're big problems. And when you go and try to go to their customer service, I mean, good luck from what I hear. And it was years ago when I had to call them once. And it was much better, I'm sure, because they didn't have all of this AI doing like half the work. And it, like now it's probably like, who knows what you're getting. I know Microsoft, I've gotten replacement controllers, stuff like that. Even when the red ring happened way back when that, I got a brand new console down the road because I sent it back and it had the red wing, and then I sent it back again and they said, oh, okay, we're just going to give you a check. So, I mean, if you're having an issue, you should speak up. And if there's a solution to the problem, you need to let people know. If customer service is going to help you out, then for those people, I mean, that have went through this, let the other people know that it could potentially happen to. That's really about it at this point.
No, I agree. I think that if if you see something, say something. If it happened to you, man, listen, you're not protecting the brand. You are protecting a conglomerate. If there's something wrong, you should let people know. Hey, listen, you might lose your stuff. FYI. But some people won't. Dread, close us out, man. Let's get your hot take on this. Again, it doesn't seem to be a widespread program issue, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be spoken upon. No one in the gaming media has picked this up. This has been running the gamut on social media. I'm very surprised, but at the same time, not very surprised that no one wants to say, "Hey, you might not have Sony on your side if you talk bad about them." Listen, this is one of those things. If you're the media, it's your job to let us know that there's something going on. That's what you get paid for. This is a pretty big story. I'm wondering if it's going to see any other traction outside of Reddit and some posts on Twitter. What do you think?
All right, so let's look at it this way. I can't see it from my house, so it doesn't matter, right? That's kind of like that same mentality in work that I see from a lot of people that just don't give a rat's ass about anything. They're just there for them and whatever they want, and then that's it. They move on. If it doesn't affect them in a positive or in a negative way, then it doesn't exist. And that's the problem. Is like you said, the media should be going after it and saying something. The XboxTax is a thing there because of the lack of duty that they have towards the Xbox communities, towards the Xbox itself, right? So, and I did see something that popped up in the chat. So I as to why I was like rubbernecking this way. It's the same situation here, right? What was brought up was something that was brought up a few years ago about Xbox, and the only thing there was information here because Xbox is following what PlayStation did because Sony has a CMOS on their PlayStation 4, right? I remember we talked about it, that it would kill your console, and the same thing with the PlayStation 5. Well, same thing with the Xbox Series X. It has that CMOS issue. And this is the thing that we're getting at, is the fact that certain things, if it doesn't affect me directly, it doesn't exist. But it does exist. That's the problem, is it might not be affecting you directly, it's affecting somebody. And we have to stand up and bring that attention out there. So hopefully we can put these companies and hold them liable for these things, right? It doesn't matter if it's Xbox, doesn't matter if it's PlayStation. We've done this accountability thing with Xbox before, with the gold doubling up to 120. You know what I mean? So we've done all this stuff before. So this is nothing new for us to hold these companies accountable for their products that we're purchasing and investing in their ecosystems, right? And that's the problem, is journalists aren't doing this, and this is what we got to call it out, because I'm sorry, yeah, the majority have no issues, but what if you're not that majority? You're in that minority.
Exactly.
Right? Nobody's listening to you. Everybody's just like, I got no problems. What do you care? Well, I care because it's my problem, you know.
Right. You should.
And so we're speaking up where others should be, especially the journalists that should be bringing it up to attention, going, hey, I know this is an old conversation, but this is still going on. Nobody's addressed it to fix it. What's up with that? How come? Where's that part of the journalistic research that they should be going after, right? You have all these people that go in and find all these things against using cobalt on our cell phones and all this stuff all this negative stuff that these huge companies are doing that they hide from us, but yet little things like this, is it too little for them to even bother to be like, hey, especially gaming journalists? I'm not saying anything else like on the political scale, but just gaming journalists, this
It's a
is
gaming
something
story, so they should definitely be covering it. Absolutely.
exactly. This should be something. Hey, let's touch back up. We've already talked about this a couple years ago, or last year or whatever, and then bring it back up and saying, hey, we've already addressed this. We're going to address it again, because it seems like from our research and reaching out to these companies, asking them what they have done to fix this, and I don't think they've even done that. And that's my issue, is the fact that they haven't done their due diligence to follow up on a story and say, hey, this has been fixed, right? They've done that for some of these things, but how come they haven't done it for this one? This is what they need to do. They need to follow up on the story. It's not, oh, here's our clickbait. We're going to bait and switch you, and we got our clicks. Who cares now? Twitter's blowing up.
Yeah.
We got our money.
Engagement.
Who cares?
Hashtag engagement. Yes.
But that's the thing. Go back and follow up. That's we were just talking about him the other day, and to him, Tom Warren. Again, I had some questions. He answered them. He said, this is why we did this, this, and this, and the wording. And I said, love it. Thank you for answering. He actually answered in the comments here as to what the information was. And he actually put it on Twitter on another item that more information came out. So I'm deleting this piece, but I'm screenshotting it here so you could see, here's the new information and the old information that was not pertinent anymore, because now we have more information to tell us that the story has changed from what we initially thought. This is what I'm talking about. Stuff like this needs to happen more often. And it's not just one person like Tom that needs to do it. Tom's only one person, but we need the rest of the journalist society group, whatever, rest of journalism and gaming to do their due diligence also and provide us with proper information. Because a lot of times, all of us in the chat are informed because we all talk to each other. We all follow these podcasts that find this information out. But guess who doesn't get that information? Normies.
Yep.
They don't get any of this stuff. And a lot of them, how many times have I told you, my friends that I've told several hundred times, almost every time I see them, that I play on Game Pass, and they had no idea what Game Pass was.
Yep.
True. It's like,
very true.
In one ear, not the other. But this is why it's important. So when you hear something like that, oh, well, maybe a normie heard that too. And now they're stuck as to, I'm not buying a PlayStation because I'll never be able to play my games. No. That's not the case. The case is, this is the issue. It's only a few people, and hopefully Sony's fixing it. Same thing with Xbox. This is what happened with the Xbox side. This is what happened over here at Nintendo when they got hacked. This is what happened over here. You know what I'm saying? They need to follow up a little bit more with certain things. Certain things just need to be like a little pin, put it up there, and we'll double check that one in a couple months or a year from now to see if anything was resolved by that time, and maybe we can make it a story and go from there. Why am I the one that's not a journalist, or at least by trade, thinking of this stuff? Why are we, the podcasters and people in chat, thinking of solutions that these higher execs don't even think about? They have all these analytics, but they don't think about the basics and the common sense. So
yeah, no,
hopefully these people get their stuff back and fixed.
Well, yeah. Again, if you're waiting on for help from customer service and PlayStation, good luck, Charlie Brown. Listen, ladies and
Yep.
gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's Breakfast with Boom. Let me catch up on the super chats. We have Sith Lord who drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama, Dragon Ball creator, has passed on." Yeah, indeed, we talked about that earlier, brother. It's a very sad day for anime fans across the world, especially because he was also a part of gaming. He did do some designs for Chrono Trigger, Blue Dragon, and a few others. Tim the Sorcerer, who's been a channel member for 20 months. Tim, thank you so much for the outstanding generosity. He says, "Hey, Boom and panel and chat, great show. Curious about the third topic." And well, there it is. Again, not the biggest topic of the show for sure, but one that I thought was worthy of a conversation. JJ Saying 117 drops an additional, very generous $2 super chat and says, "WB is delisting games from Adult Swim on Steam. That sucks." Yeah, WB is being run by maniacs. I was going to talk about that, but I may move that story forward because I'm still waiting for some more stuff. Apparently, their money people want to move away from I forgot the word that they use for single player games, but after the success of Hogwarts, that you want to move away from that to get free to play games is crazy to me. But whatever, that's why they're going to be bankrupt before you know it. Let's get to the outro. Start first with Silent Cypher. Brother, sell the brand of the Xbox International podcast with yourself. And of course, Crazy Louie, who sometimes does the podcast from his shower, which is very interesting. Talk about that. Where can people check that out weekly? And more importantly, follow you on social media.
Well, yeah, I think that actually explains a lot of the core issues we run into, is that he probably got electrocuted when he was doing one of those from the shower
Potentially.
once. And
Yeah.
so that might be, you might be onto something. But yeah, so where you can find me, of course, Wednesdays, you can find me on Xbox International Podcast, like Boom mentioned. Can't find me there recently because life has kind of taken over my Wednesdays a little bit, but hopefully I'll be able to duck in and out here and there. Catch me every Friday over here hanging out with these awesome gentlemen on Breakfast with Boom. And besides that, right now, probably just catch me trying to play some like Dead Island 2 and try and catch up on backlog.
Phenomenal game. One of my favorite games of last year, dude. What a great experience.
It's so good, and I'm happy to see a resurgence of people actually jumping into it and experiencing it now, because it makes a difference, and it's on Game Pass, so it's a no-brainer. But yeah, besides that, you find me on social media being a troll like usual. Besides that, if you want to play some games, Silent Cypher on Xbox or pretty much everywhere on social media. So chat, thank you guys so much, and thank you again, Boom, for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Fuzzy Belvedere, sell the brand of the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre, as we try and help you get to at least 500 subs on your YouTube channel. Where can people subscribe? Where can people find you on other podcasts? And more importantly, where can people follow you on social media?
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry.
That's all right, brother.
As always, want to thank you for having me on. It's always awesome being on here with you guys. Love your guys' takes and interacting with you guys. Love everybody in the chat. Thank you for showing up and interacting with us. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. And then for those that you want to hear any of my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, or see me on Twitter with I guess different takes on certain things, just follow me at Fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find me on the Xbox Ultimate Podcast, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight on Fun Speculations channel. Shop Podcast on PTK Blam's channel tomorrow or on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Pixel Echoes, it's a new channel with me in 3-bit. On Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just do a search for Pixelated Echoes. And then hope to see you guys right back here 12 noon on Monday for the Xbox Lunch Break special. Look forward to seeing you guys then.
Thank you so much. And Crispy Bomb, sell your brand, brother. Where could people find you on social media? And what else you got going on, sir?
At Crispy Bomb on X, Crispy Bomb 28 Xbox Live, and I'll be back here on Breakfast with Boom Friday at 10 a.m. And shout out to the chat, always fun, and we'll see you then.
Nice, brother. Thank you so much for being here as always. Hopefully you don't get sick and that you don't have to be out of the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
But you just never know. Obviously, we hope that everyone at home is well. Lastly, and in no way least, let's talk to Dreadpool. Dreadpool, sell your brand, brother. Tell everyone where they can not only check out Breaking Bread with Dread, more importantly, what else you got going on? Where can people find you on social media, and how can they subscribe?
Yes, I put my link in the chat. Thank you to every one of you guys in the chat. And more importantly, before I forget, I wanted to say this ahead of time. When you guys see these super chats pop up, I know on PC you can thumbs up that super chat. Definitely do that. It helps with the engagement. It shows that that person that super chatted that you guys are like-minded with their comments. Definitely do that. Because we are a community, we want to see interaction like that too. So definitely help out those guys that have done those super chats for Boom. And back to me, Breaking Bread with Dread. I'm still working on the latest one. I've got some videos up. I've slowed down on my shorts. I got some new locations that I'm working on. There are a couple other interviews that are in the works. I've got yeses, but it's
Nice.
a coordination effort. So trying to work on that too. What else we got? What else? So yes, every Friday morning here at 10 a.m. Breakfast with Boom. Sunday mornings, Good Morning Xbox on the iconic video games podcast channel, which is Axel 1324. So we've taken over, and it's been probably a good year now that we've taken over from Noof. And Sundays at 7 p.m. Game Beyond the Box. Definitely check us out and all the guys. What else do we have? And then just miscellaneous stuff here and there. So definitely look all over wherever you can find the links. There's other links to other places. So much appreciated. And if you guys want to comment on any of this stuff and let me know what you think or any ideas, because I had some people comment on ideas, and we made it a reality. And I've actually made good connections with these other creators. So definitely, after the fact, put in the comments. Let us know
Yes.
here what you liked and what you didn't like, so we can obviously do a better show for you guys.
Nice.
We always want to do best for you and for us. So thank you, Boom. Thank you guys to the panel that are here. And again, most importantly, thank you, chat, because
Yes.
we really appreciate your time for hanging out with us. You really don't know what it means,
Well, we don't have a show without the chats, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we'd be talking to dead air if we didn't have people that tuned in to listen to what we had to say. So, yeah, of course, big thank you for everyone there. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, that's going to do it. Hopefully, you enjoyed the show enough to hit the like button before you get out. If you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. Mrs. Boom and I are on the hunt for 15K in 2024. We do have a lofty goal of 17K. I don't know if we're going to get there, but obviously we do this Monday through Friday, 5 different shows, all different panels, and all great content. We don't sell you hate. We don't hate monger, and we certainly don't use clickbait to get you in to check out the channel. What you see is what you get. Of course, a big thank you to all of the super chats, channel memberships, and other kinds of support that the channel continues to get. We could not do many of the things that we do without your support. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day, folks, it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. He would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part